yet another pointing project. So this gable end property, it's kind of an awkward angle because we're using the neighbour's access to get onto the job. So we're really grateful that the neighbour's been so forthcoming with that permission for us to use it. We just have to make sure there's no disasters or dramas to wind the neighbour up. So this wall was covered in ivy. There must have been about 18 inch of ivy when we come to price for the job. So what we're recommending the client does is cut off the ivy. So in that interim period between us starting the job and the client accepting the quote, the ivy's died. So we just pull it straight off the wall, nice and easy. It only took about an hour to clear the whole wall. But the pointing behind's in quite a woeful condition. So we're going to break all the pointing out and we'll just carry on. You've seen how we've done it before. We'll just do exactly the same job on this. It's a bit of a smaller wall, so we get to see a bit progress a bit quicker. So what we'll do is we'll come back throughout the start of the project and we'll see how we're raking it out. Back on the gable, we're repointing. We've started to grind everything out now. Everything's broken out. So we've got a little bit of some little sections left to do. So what we'll do is we'll run through how we go about the actual process of breaking out, which is one of the most important parts of a repoint, because it deduces how deep that mortar that we're going to be applying goes onto the wall and how good a job he does of weatherproofing the property. So we're up on the top and we've got the parapets here. These are going to be rebedded because down this section of the property, the lime mortar behind the cement pointing was incredibly wet, so that shows us that water's been ingressing into the property here at some point. And when we have a look at the parapets before we take them off, someone's put like a little fillet of mortar here to try and send the rain and the water back onto the roof, because these are laid shedding the water down the wall, so the water's run off the parapets down the wall and into the property somewhere. And we can even see here, because that's not even overhanging the gable, so any moisture's going to be running straight onto the wall back into the property. So these are going to be getting rebedded properly. We'll do some little bits of patching work, you know, and we'll sort all this out as well, because that's obviously not weatherproofing anything. So right, so we're breaking out. So get my ear defenders. So this is an electric breaker. It's basically exactly the same as a hammer and chisel, but way quicker, and you don't use as much energy up on this. So you can put different attachments on the chisels. So we've got a flat-headed chisel there, which is ideal for this random cut stone walling. So it's not random as in any bits of stone have gone in. Every piece of stone here has been shaped by a banksman in the quarry and then put in place with a random pattern. But because the joints are quite uniform, you'll find that the flat head of the breaker chisel gets into these perfectly. They do a round pointed chisel as well. They're good for breaking stuff off, but they're more ideally suited to a random wall where you're getting random shaped stones. Because like I say, all the joints here are quite uniform. So, breaker, stop that going down. Put the pins on. So this is the existing point in here, untouched. All we've done is pulled the ivy off. You can see these little suckers here that are off the ivy. They'll stay on the wall pretty much indefinitely. You can burn them off with a blowtorch, but on a job like this where no one's going to be seeing the actual finished project, we'll probably end up leaving these and just scrape them off with the chisel. But you can see here where the ivy's run its course. It's been trying to get through into the roof cavity, so that's all taken care of now. When you get ivy on a wall, you will get moisture sat behind that, behind the ivy, because it does find its way in. And with the ivy sheltering the wall from the direct heat of the sun, nothing's escaping out into the air, so all the moisture will be trapped in the wall, which is why it's not really advisable to plant ivy up a wall. So with this breaker, we have an adjustable speed setting. You can put it on a lower speed setting if the stone's incredibly soft. This is quite hard sandstone, but we don't want to be smashing the faces off here. The way that the previous pointers pointed the wall up, he's brushed the mortar over the face of the stone, so you can already see there where the moisture is going to be getting behind that and down into the joint. You know, these cracks formed in all over the place. It's just bad practice, is that. So we're going to remove the existing pointing and take it back to the stone. And what you will find is if you decide to point your wall up and brush it, so that you're left with the gaps and the snots over the face of the stone, the water will sit on this edge and freeze and thaw over years and years, and you're left with problems like that. So that's called spelching, where the water's got into the top couple of mil of stone, frozen it and just punched the face off. So the actual way that you point the wall can be incredibly detrimental to the actual substrate that you're pointing onto. So we've got the ear defenders on. So all we do is just chase these joints out. The break is an incredibly effective tool at getting the existing cement pointing out of the wall. So what we are left with now is behind here. That's the original lime mortar that the property was built with. So I'd say that whoever's pointed this pointing hasn't broken out enough there, because it's really shallow there, so the mortar hasn't keyed properly, and that's why it ends up coming away from the edge of the stone, from the stone arises. So what we'll do now is we get the grinder onto the job. This is just a 4-inch grinder, and that's a diamond tip blade on it. They wear out a lot slower than the fibre discs. So if you haven't got a job, it's worth getting a few of these diamond tip blades. They make the job a lot easier. I'll just get the mask on as well. So when you're grinding lime mortar out, it is incredibly caustic as the lime. So when you're breathing that dust in, it will burn you. It will upset your throat, and it's not nice. You're probably better off getting COVID than breathing this stuff in, because it's not good for you at all. So we should put the mask on. And back on with the ear defenders and the grinder. So all I've done there is I've just run the grinder along the joints, and as it's going along the joints, you'll find it easier to jiggle the grinder about, and that cleans the Harris out on both sides. So what that's done is it's loosened up that lime mortar beneath, and we've used the modern tools, and we're going old school now. So this is called a mortar pick. You get them in different sizes, you want a finer point really, because you can get right into the joints then. So everything that we've just gone over with the grinder, we just go over it again with the mortar pick. Pick all that loose mortar out. With it being lime mortar, it does come out very easily. Get some of the old cement off as well. That. So we just go over everything that we've just ground out, break it out. So each joint wants to be twice as deep as it is wide. So there we're going back there about 1.5 inches, 2 inches, which is perfect. When you get to the bigger joints like that, just keep working it back, so that when we put that next that fresh mortar on it, that joint's going to be filled, it's going to be deep, and it's going to be solid, full of mortar, keeping the weather out. So as I say, this is like probably the most important part of the repointing process, because if we weren't to do this, then we wouldn't get a good deep adhesion with our cement mortar that we're putting back into the wall. So we'd be kind of wasting our time really. So it's worth taking your time over this part of the job. Get some nice clean regular joints, because as you can see with this particular joint here that I'm working on, it's very wide and it will be very deep. So what I'm aiming for there, in fact what I'm aiming for in all these joints, is a nice rectangular joint, so when I put my mortar in, it's keyed up and it's an even shape. If I was to leave, say like that joint there is scooped out at the minute, so the mortar won't be embedded into that joint as well as it could be. Once I've gone over that joint with the mortar pick, like so, I've got a nice regular joint to stick that fresh mortar in. It's important to go over every joint, even these little thin ones here. Then we'll get a standard mix and a standard pointing performance of our mortar once it goes back into the wall. Like that. So I'd say that section's that done there. Get a bit of that out. Like so. Terrific. So what we do now with that is we blow that off, and then that's ready then to get some mortar on. So we'll go down a lift and we'll show you the blowing off process. So we've gone downstairs. All this wall's been grinded out and chipped out with the mortar pick. So these are nice clean joints, and I'd say that this wall is ready to point up now. So you can see a little bit more from this lower deck. These suckers that are off the ivy. And they do come off really easily with a bit of persuasion, but you will be left with these little hairs. So they're the roots of the actual ivy. And as I say, you can burn them off with a flamethrower or whatever you want to use for the job. But I don't think it detracts the job that much. Obviously, if it was next to a doorway or a window, I'd want to keep these clean, because they're in a neighbour's garden that no one's really looking at. I'm tempted to leave them on. So as we're going up and pointing, we'll just use a pointing trowel just to scrape off the majority of the actual branches and the stems, but we'll be leaving these suckers on. So that's that. So, right, the blower. Because we've ground this out and attacked it with the mortar pick, there's still a lot of dust in this wall. So if we were to point up onto that dust, it's not keying in the mortar. That mechanical action won't be performed as it should be. So we just blow everything off once we're done. So we'll put our visor on. And we'll put the ear defenders on as well, because it's always annoying the neighbours. So when we've got the ear defenders on, we won't not hear them shouting at us. you're going to blow off your job, it's always an idea just to put some rags up just to stop the main of the dust. So yeah, so we're ready to point up on this now. So you'll come and join us in a few more days when we've got a bit of gobble on the wall, and she'll show you how we put it on.